Now this I can say without a doubt. Studies have shown over and over again the major things that matter. Welcome to Dad Bod Fitness. If you and I are just meeting, my name is David and I help crazy busy moms and dads to be able to build a physique. So most likely you've probably seen my first video on Dr. Amy Lee's BioX4. And if you haven't, what I would recommend doing is after this video, go back and watch that one so you can understand my full opinion. So here I want to take a deeper dive into the marketing underbelly of BioX4. So before anyone else comments it, no, I do not have an MD, I am not a doctor, and I don't have any fancy titles. I'm simply a guy who is so super passionate about nutrition and building muscle that I've spent the last 6 years of my life diving into research and studies and my own practical experience to learn how to do that. Now, a doctor isn't just right because he or she has a DR in front of their name. And the same thing applies to any other certification. Now, it can potentially give them more qualification, but in this situation, not necessarily. Doctors, most people don't know, actually get very little training in nutrition specifically, especially if you're talking about just an MD. Not saying that's the case with Dr. Amy Lee. I don't know the details of all of her experience and education into nutrition. But in general, doctors actually only get about 1 semester of nutrition, so it's fairly basic. Just because someone is a doctor or has a title does not make them automatically correct. So when you combat my arguments, I would ask that you combat them with logic and studies and research. To appeal to the fact that she's a doctor and I am not is a pure and simple logical fallacy. It's called the appeal to authority fallacy. So please don't fall into that. I want you to be able to combat what I'm saying with more evidence. Look at the evidence that I'm presenting and then make your own opinion. Now also, no, I'm not basing my perspective on only my life. I've gotten that comment a lot saying, I'm just an anecdote, I'm one person. What works for me does not generically work for everyone. Yes, obviously that's true. If you're saying that, what it tells me is that you didn't see the entire video where I actually specifically say my life is an anecdote. It's not the final authority. But what I did include were studies and data to back that up, to say that this has also been proven out in studies, what I am saying. I will never just base my argument on purely my own example. Everyone is vastly different. I completely understand that. And ultimately what the research is pointing to is that over and over again, it shows calories ultimately do matter. The foods matter, how much you're eating does matter. To lose weight, you need to be in an energy deficit, and you also need to have a sustainable way to eat. I have no problem per se with the product itself. From what I can see, it has the potential to be able to help people. Now, I went through the ingredients and some of the studies behind the ingredients in the last video. Ultimately, I think it has potential, and I've heard from lots of people who have had great experiences with it. And that's awesome, like that encourages me. And I am encouraged anytime someone finds something that's gonna help them to manage their weight and have a healthier lifestyle. But I'm not necessarily recommending to people to take this. But I just don't want you to have to be dependent on it. And number one, before you take anything like this, I would probably get some sort of expert nutritional advice for your own health situation. So the bottom line is the problem that I have is the marketing. So my 3 points here that I'm going to cover are, number one, is high fructose corn syrup really the number 1 fat forming ingredient in food? Bet you can guess my answer, but wait, I'm not defending it. Just wait a minute, we're gonna get to that. Number 2, are bread, yogurt, and cereal bars inherently bad? And number 3, the idea Dr. Amy Lee has that anything our body doesn't know is automatically stored as body fat. Now I'm going to defend my arguments with science and research, and I'm gonna include links down in the description below. So please, before commenting that I'm just throwing out my opinion with no foundation and I'm not a doctor, please look at those first. I'm not just making things up. Other experts far more qualified than me have already gone through this. We don't need to be dogmatic or religious about food. Let's find what works best so that we can get you to the healthy point that you need to be in. Now, if you need some easy ways to feel more satiated and full and to reach your goals faster, at the end of this video, click the link down in the description below. I want to give you my free Easy Whole Food Recipes ebook. It's a free recipe book that is packed with some amazing and simple whole food recipes that have been a staple for me during my own transformation, and I'd like you to be able to have the same. All right, point number one, I am not saying BioX4 won't work for you. I'm saying be cautious, because there are better ways to do this, in my own opinion, than shelling out money for a supplement and then being married to this supplement in order to manage your weight. I want you to be able to take control of your health and weight management by building muscle, eating whole foods, and ultimately increasing your metabolic rate. So more on how to do that later. So let's start with high fructose corn syrup, the big demon in the closet here. I'm not defending high fructose corn syrup. I don't encourage people to eat it. High fructose corn syrup has been shown to potentially have a negative effect on your hunger hormones, specifically ghrelin and leptin. We still need more data on this, but that appears to be the case. So if you eat a lot of foods with high fructose corn syrup, it's more than likely that you're probably gonna be struggling with your hunger. Your body's gonna be telling you to eat, even though you might not actually be hungry. So I encourage people to eat lots of whole foods and minimally processed foods. They are the best and will help you to be the most satiated. But if you are eating within your caloric needs, you're eating enough protein, and you're managing your weight, high fructose corn syrup is not going to be a problem for you or cause you to gain fat, because ultimately it comes down to calories in versus calories out. What you're eating and how much of it that you're eating, because how much you are eating is highly dependent on what you are eating. So I am by no means separating the two. The calories in, calories out equation is intensely interrelated. It affects itself. So yes, technically you can lose weight eating crap junk food. Like I mentioned in my other video, the example of eating 1,000 calories of processed cereal, or in the situation of a professor who's, I think he's known as the Twinkie professor. I'll link the story down below. This professor lost weight, improved all of his health markers by eating just Twinkies and McDonald's. And he did supplement with some protein shakes to make sure his protein was high enough. But all he ate was Twinkies and McDonald's, and it was awful, and he talks about how he hated it. He would have given anything to eat a salad. But ultimately, the fact is you can improve your health markers even though you're eating junk food. Now, I am not advocating that. Please don't jump down in the comments. Wait, don't jump in the comments. I'm not advocating that. Obviously, that's not ideal. That's not gonna be ideal for every other aspect of life. But the bottom line is it does matter how much you're eating, first and foremost, but you do need to take into consideration what foods you are eating. So including some high fructose corn syrup is not going to kill you. I don't care what anyone tells you. It might not be ideal, and I would agree with you that. And I even try myself not to eat it a lot. What I would recommend you do is don't try not to eat high fructose corn syrup. I want you to try to include in your diet whole foods. Just include more whole foods, include more water. Don't worry about cutting out other things, because those other things you'll find will naturally fall to the wayside when you're eating more whole foods and drinking enough water and eating enough protein. All right, number two. So what about bread, yogurt, and cereal bars? Am I saying all of these are okay or not? The answer is it depends. What does the research say about those? These are just a few examples of how I would recommend approaching them. Are you sensitive, allergic, or intolerant, or just can't digest dairy or gluten? If so, then I would recommend avoiding them. Now, if not, do you have a raging appetite and have a hard time feeling full? If you do, then I would also recommend probably avoiding them, because other whole foods are gonna be far more satiating. Now, do you really enjoy those foods even though you may be overweight? If so, then what I would recommend is including some amounts of those in your nutrition overall, along with lots more whole foods, because that's going to help you to have a more sustainable approach that can be sustained long term. This has to be a lifestyle shift, not just a short term cut these foods out. Now this I can say almost without a doubt. Studies have shown over and over again the major things that matter is having a calorie deficit and having a sustainable diet, so that's something you can do long term. You've got to be able to stick to it. So are these the most satiating foods? No, I definitely would argue that they're not the most satiating foods, but they do not just cause you to gain fat just because you happen to be eating them, because as long as you're not overeating, that won't occur. All right, now number three, my final point here that I want to discuss. It truly bothers me when Dr. Amy Lee says this phrase of anything our body doesn't know will be automatically stored as fat. Scientifically, that is just not true. And again, it goes back to the example I used in the other video, but you can undereat, you could be eating junky foods, but as a survival mechanism, your body will use the stored energy as fuel to be able to live. So you can be eating processed food and not so great foods, but you can still be losing weight. It's not ideal. Again, it's not ideal. You want to be eating better whole foods, minimally processed foods, and high protein. But you cannot deny the fact that biologically we are designed to survive and will do so if we're not taking in enough energy. And as a doctor, I find it very frustrating that her knowing calories in, calories out, because I've seen other of her videos where she talks about this, but in her ad, she does not talk about it. But she obviously knows that our bodies will not just stop utilizing energy if it's processed. Even if it's processed, our body will use it if we're not eating enough. So again, I don't have any direct malice towards Dr. Amy Lee. I disagree with her on the approach that she took in marketing this product, but I know that she has a heart to help people, and I've seen that in her other videos, and I know that she wants to be able to help people to change their lives. I think she's going about it the wrong way, and I'll say it again, but she hasn't marketed a product for years. I think 20 years she's been in the industry and now happens to have a product, so I can't have any judgments on her saying that she's some sort of snake oil salesman. Obviously, I don't believe that, but the problem is how she's approaching the marketing for this product. So if you are seriously on the lookout for a supplement to help you with your weight management, I would strongly urge you to focus first on building muscle, no matter what age or gender you are. Do it through resistance training, eating more protein, ideally 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And if you're severely overweight, you could be much closer to 0.6 or 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight, even down as low to as 0.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight. I also want you to eat whole foods, and I want you to work on increasing your metabolism. And once again, I want to remind you, you can get that free recipe ebook down in the description below. And there are some awesome meal options all centered on whole foods. These recipes are going to help satiate you and get you closer to your fitness goals and ultimately to the weight that you want. I genuinely want to help you accomplish this, which is why I want to give this ebook away for free. If you find yourself unable to lose weight, especially if you're a woman, I want you to click or tap the screen right up over here to find out why and what you need to do to fix it. And as always, be intentional, bring the intensity, and I'll see you over there on the next video.